This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. It's Friday, May 17th, 2024. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning. Grilled on the stand. Michael Cohen testifies for a third day in the Donald Trump hush money trial.
Republicans hold the Attorney General in contempt of Congress.
It is a height of hypocrisy.
I'm Linda Kenyon.
The House has approved a bill to undo President Biden's pause on some weapon shipments to Israel. I'm Jackie Quinn.
5 Americans are facing prison sentences in the Turks and Caicos Islands. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
On Wall Street, for the first time ever, the Dow hit 40,000 yesterday, just 4 years after reaching 30,000. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
College commencement remarks about women has an NFL star kicker in hot water, and a college president is suspended because of a deal he made with students. All ahead on America in the Morning. Another day in the hush money trial for former President Donald Trump brought more testimony from the star witness in the case and a slew of support for the defendant. Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz was part of a group of Trump allies in Congress that was in court yesterday in New York City to support their friend. He described the accusations against Trump as the Mr. Potato Head doll of crimes.
Where they had to stick together a bunch of things that did not belong together.
Former Trump lawyer and star witness in the case, Michael Cohen, was back on the stand yesterday and testified for 7 hours. Much of the attention was on Cohen's character, Trump's lawyers painting him as a liar. Gaetz said there's no branch of government that Cohen hasn't lied to.
We watched Michael Cohen get dog-walked through the series of lies he has told.
Congresswoman Lauren Boebert was part of the crew supporting Trump.
The radical left wants President Trump to simply go away. And if President Trump just went away, this would all go away as well.
She said the whole case shows bias against Trump based on what she referred to as lies.
And we are here today to counter those as we stand for our friend.
Congressman Mike Waltz of Florida said there are dangers in what he believes is happening to Trump and compared it to what happens in corrupt countries.
Maduro weaponized the judicial system in Venezuela against Guaido. Every prime minister of Pakistan knows if they lose to the other side, they're going to get put in jail.
Congressman Andy Biggs shared that sentiment.
If you want to know how you can try to impact an election, you can bring a candidate, the candidate for the Republicans, and try to tie him up in court over and over again.
Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna and Congressman Bob Good were also in court supporting Trump. As far as the testimony yesterday, Cohen was questioned on his history of lying under oath and motivations to turn against Trump. The defense played clips of Cohen saying he hopes that Trump goes to jail. Cohen's testimony will pick back up on Monday. Trump's attending his son's graduation today. He'll speak at the NRA meetings in Texas on Saturday. House Republicans, meanwhile, have voted to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress. Correspondent Linda Kenyon has the story from Washington.
House Republicans advanced contempt proceedings to the full House over Attorney General Merrick Garland's refusal to turn over audio recordings of President Biden's interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur. Republicans claim the audio recordings are crucial to their impeachment inquiry of President Biden. President Biden exerted executive privilege over the recordings, while General Garland called the Republican effort illegitimate.
We have gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure that the committees get responses to their legitimate requests. But this is not one.
Garland also called the contempt proceedings just another example of a political pressure campaign.
There have been a series of unprecedented and frankly unfounded attacks on the Justice Department.
Republican Jim Jordan, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, defended his committee's actions.
The committee that oversees the Justice Department, has oversight of the Justice Department, wants to know if they are impartially administering justice.
The irony, said Democrat Eric Swalwell, who cited Jordan's own refusal to comply with a subpoena from the January 6th committee.
You should not be able to bring any subpoena of another person if you are out of compliance of your own subpoena.
Democrat Gerald Nadler called Jordan's actions a waste of money.
Chairman Jordan consistently opposes government spending on everything from feeding children to education and health care, has spent $20 million taxpayer dollars of this Congress to investigate his various conspiracy theories. And what exactly has he delivered to the American people on their $20 million investment? Exactly nothing.
Democrat Ted Lieu described the Republican effort as stupidity.
Why is that? Because we have their transcript.
Robert Hur, who not only provided the transcript but testified, concluded no charges would be filed against Biden for his handling of a small number of classified documents after his vice presidency. He also described Biden as a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. And that, said House Speaker Mike Johnson, is exactly why Democrats didn't want those audio recordings released.
President Biden is apparently afraid for the citizens of this country and everyone to hear those tapes.
While Republican Chip Roy told Newsmax the transcripts are just not enough.
We ought to be able to investigate that and see that and not just rely on what they put down in writing.
Linda Kenyon, Washington.
Those are the top stories of the day, sponsored by Sleep Number. Save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed for a limited time only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com. A measure that demands the White House send weapons to Israel making its way through Congress. The latest on that when America in the Morning returns after this. Waking up to some nasty weather in parts of the United States today. Matt Rindy's with us, our meteorologist. Matt, what thunderstorms are going to impact us today?
A storm moving from the southern plains into the southeast will continue to provide some very heavy rainfall for portions of the region. There have already been areas hit with 3 to 4 inches of rain, and as the storm moves eastward, there will continue to be a risk for significant flash flooding. Along with the heavier rain, a few of the storms could become severe, producing damaging winds and large hail from portions of southeast Texas through southern Alabama. Additional showers and thunderstorms will also develop farther to the north through portions of Oklahoma into southern Missouri, as well as a large area from Tennessee northward to Indiana and Ohio, and eastward to Georgia into Virginia. A few scattered showers and thunderstorms could also reach as far north as eastern Michigan into western New York. Along the east coast, high pressure wedge between that plains system moving eastward and a storm just offshore will lead to more sunshine today and a warmer afternoon with highs mostly in the 70s. Meanwhile, another storm centered in west central Canada will drag a cold front through the northern Rockies. That'll produce some showers along the way and even some snow showers in the higher elevations. As the cold front reaches eastern Montana into the Dakotas, there'll be a few thunderstorms developing along and ahead of it, and a few of these storms could become gusty, causing some damage as well as small hail. These storms will continue to develop eastward tonight through the rest of North Dakota into northwest Minnesota. Birmingham, Alabama will have mainly cloudy skies today, along with a couple of showers and a heavy gusty thunderstorm or two and a high of 73. It is going to be a windy and warm day in Rock Springs, Wyoming, with plenty of sunshine and a high of 74. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember to follow us everywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The Republican-led House has passed a measure that demands the White House send weapons to Israel. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports it comes as some Democrats' support for Israel in their war with Hamas has been waning.
Republican lawmakers have accused President Biden of abandoning Israel by putting on hold a shipment of some 3,500 bombs that could be used for a Rafah offensive.
It wasn't that long ago when President Biden called for the elimination of Hamas. But he's not doing that anymore. And now it's clear that Biden and Schumer have turned their back on Israel. They are carrying water for Iran.
And they voted to force the weapons transfer. House Speaker Mike Johnson before the vote.
This should not be a partisan issue. It is shameful that it has become that. We have to stand with our closest ally, Israel. They are the only stable democracy in the Middle East. They are one of our closest friends.
More than a dozen Democrats joined with House Republicans to pass the measure to help arm Israel. But Democratic leaders in the Senate say it won't get a vote there.
You are either with Israel or you are not. And if Schumer refuses to bring this up for a vote, he'll be telling the world that his party, the Democrats, are no longer willing to stand with our great ally.
I'm Jackie Quinn.
The arrest of several U.S. tourists in the Turks and Caicos Islands who could face more than a decade in prison for carrying ammunition in their luggage has prompted pleas from 3 U.S. governors. Lisa Dwyer reports.
5 Americans are facing prison sentences of up to 12 years in the Turks and Caicos Islands on charges that they illegally carried ammunition while in the popular tourist destination about 600 miles southeast of Miami. 3 of those arrests have prompted pleas for mercy from the governors of Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. who say the three inadvertently had ammunition in their luggage. The British territory significantly tightened its gun laws in 2022. While the island's courts do have sentencing discretion for exceptional circumstances, by law they cannot just pay a fine. That means that the Americans may not get 12 years in prison, but they also likely won't be able to just pay a fine and then just return home. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
There's a deal between the NFL and Netflix, and we've got the X's and O's for you. It's coming up in our business report. This is America in the Morning. Don't go anywhere. The business report sponsored by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with Friday Business.
Well, Wall Street opens this morning after a record-setting day yesterday, with the Dow hitting 40,000 for the first time before it pulled back. Here's what it sounded like on CNBC.
Looks like there's some breaking news, so we will pause.
I think we touched it.
We did it.
It is official. Dow 40K.
Dow 40K.
Almost 4 years after Dow 30K.
CNBC's Carl Quintanilla and Leslie Picker. Now, stocks did finish a little bit lower yesterday. There might have been some profit taking. Walmart hit a record high yesterday on strong quarterly results. It's winning over higher income shoppers who just don't want to spend more on the same thing elsewhere.
The prices there are really, like Eddie, crazy. Yeah, they're insane. I mean, you can't believe aisle after aisle the bargains in Walmart. French bread down $1, prices down for private brand soda. Big prices down for frozen Popeyes. These are just examples. Boneless, skinless chicken. They are the inflation fighter.
CNBC Mad Money host Jim Cramer. Airlines and airports bracing for a record Memorial Day weekend of travel just a week away.
It's not just Memorial Day that will be the busiest ever. This summer will be the busiest ever for the U.S. airports in terms of the number of people who are going through the airports. In fact, the TSA says it'll be an increase of 8 to 10% compared to the number of people who were flying last year. Starts next Friday before Memorial Day with a bang. 2.9 million passengers are expected.
CNBC's Phil LeBeau. The House passed the Ticket Act yesterday. It forces concert and event ticket sellers to disclose all their fees up front. On many websites right now, you have to hit a button before it'll show you all the fees.
So, Jessica, why did the NFL choose Netflix for more football games?
Yeah, Netflix, with about 80 million subscribers across the U.S. and Canada, will show 2 live NFL games on Christmas Day this year, and at least 1 in 25 and 1 in 26. And it has a lot to do with the NFL's plans to become a world sport. It announced pro football games next season in England, Brazil, and Germany.
This is really the first deal that we have done that is truly global in nature. So these games will be distributed in every country that Netflix is in, which is about 190 countries.
The NFL's chief media and business officer, Brian Rolap, on CNBC. On today's watch list, no big earnings or economic reports today. We do find out the results of the UAW union vote among workers at 2 Mercedes-Benz plants in Alabama. New in theaters for the weekend, Paramount's If, Lionsgate's horror film, The Strangers, and Focus features Amy Winehouse biopic, Back to Black.
Some controversy for a Super Bowl winning kicker. It's more his mouth than his leg that's catching the attention. We've got reaction when America in the Morning returns. Stay with us. A Super Bowl winning NFL kicker is getting a lot of attention and demands his football team part ways with him after comments he made during a recent commencement address. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports.
The comments made by Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker came during last weekend's graduation ceremony at Benedictine College. Butker congratulated the women receiving degrees and said most of them were probably more excited about getting married and having children. Butker, who's Catholic and has made his conservative Catholic beliefs well known, said some Catholic leaders were pushing dangerous gender ideologies onto the youth of America. He also assailed Pride Month and President Biden's stance on abortion. Graduates had mixed views of the speech. The NFL issued a statement saying Butker's views are not those of the league, saying the league is steadfast in its commitment to inclusion. The Chiefs declined to comment. I'm Mike Hempen.
California's Sonoma State University president Mike Lee was put on administrative leave after he brokered an agreement with a group of pro-Palestine students, but did so without the approval of the school's leadership. In his deal with the students, he agreed to pursue divestment from Israel and end study abroad programs with Israeli schools. His arrangement, though, was made without the approval of the California State University school system, which called Lee's actions, quote, insubordination, and said he did not have the right to enter into that agreement. Lee released a statement saying he regrets the unintended consequences of what he did. America in the Morning for Friday, May 17th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout, and this is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout. Here's what's coming up this half hour. Grilled on the stand, Michael Cohen testifies for a third day in the Donald Trump hush money trial.
An autopsy report shows a spicy tortilla chip partially to blame for the death of a Massachusetts teen.
I'm Bob Brown.
4 dead and parts of greater Houston without power following severe storms.
Honda is doubling down on its commitment to electric vehicles. I'm Rita Foley.
A pardon for a convicted killer in Texas and a state saying no to masks. We'll tell you why.
The Timberwolves force Game 7 while the Rangers rally to advance. I'm Robert Workman.
There's a new family film in the theaters this weekend that you can take your imaginary friend to. I'm Kevin Carr.
We're back after these messages. Some parts of the country expected to get wet again today. Now, storms could be stronger in some places compared to others. Matt Rindy's here to sort it all out for us. Matt?
The next system to impact the U.S. is a storm centered in west central Canada, which will drag a cold front through the northern Rockies. And that'll produce some showers along the way and even some snow showers in the higher elevations. As the cold front reaches eastern Montana into the Dakotas, there will be a few thunderstorms developing along and ahead of it, a few of which could become gusty, producing damaging winds as well as small hail. These storms will continue to move eastward tonight through the rest of North Dakota into northwest Minnesota. Ahead of that front, it's going to be a warm day through much of the northern plains with plenty of sunshine and highs mostly in the 80s with a few 90s in the mix. Behind that front, it'll be a much cooler day with highs in the 50s and 60s, though some mountain regions could hold in the 30s. The west will be largely dry again today with a good amount of sunshine. Afternoon temperatures will once again be mostly 5 to 15 degrees above the historical average for inland locations, with coastal regions remaining closer to average. The southern plains with a strong storm system moving into the southeast today. Some very heavy rainfall for portions of Louisiana and Alabama. There have already been reports of 3 to 4 inches of rainfall with this system, and as it moves eastward, it will continue to be a risk for significant flash flooding. Along with the heavier rain, a few thunderstorms could become severe, producing damaging winds and large hail. That'll be from portions of southeast Texas into southern Alabama. And we'll have additional showers and thunderstorms continuing to develop through portions of Oklahoma into southern Missouri, as well as a large area from Tennessee northward to Indiana and Ohio, and then eastward to portions of Georgia into Virginia. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember to follow us everywhere you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. It was a busy day inside the Manhattan courtroom during Donald Trump's hush money trial as his former attorney Michael Cohen spent his third day on the witness stand, this time grilled by the defense attorneys, challenging his credibility. As correspondent Julie Walker reports, while Trump's gag order remains in place, a number of House members traveled from D.C. to New York to plead his case outside the courthouse.
They do not want him to be in this race. They know that he is the #1 candidate for president of the United States for the 2024 election, and they are doing everything that they can to interfere in yet another election.
This is a made-up crime. No other American in the country would be charged with this type of crime. It's like the Mr. Potato Head doll of crimes, where they had to stick together a bunch of things that did not belong together.
Trump left his hush money trial Thursday, saying it's all an effort to damage him in the election.
You know, they're trying to rush to get it done before the election so that they can harm me, so they can hurt their political opponent. They're rushing. All this rush. There's no rush. These trials take forever. But this one, they're rushing it. We're here early in the morning and we leave in the evening. Now the judge wants to extend the time periods so that we can get this thing done fast before the election.
Michael Cohen is back on the stand Monday, and then the trial could head to closing arguments if Trump doesn't testify in his own defense and his team doesn't call a witness. Under cross-exam, they attacked Michael Cohen in an attempt to discredit his testimony about the former president's involvement in a scheme to pay Stormy Daniels to stay quiet about an alleged sexual encounter with Trump ahead of the 2016 election, which he denies.
The crime is that they're doing this case. This was a case that wasn't going to be done, and then when I announced I was running, they brought it up. They could have done it 7 years ago. This could have been brought 7 years ago, but they wanted it right smack in the middle of election. These are very dishonest people that we're dealing with.
Court is off Friday, Trump attending son Barron's high school graduation and then a fundraiser. At criminal court in Manhattan, I'm Julie Walker.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott has issued a full pardon for the man who was found guilty of killing Black Lives Matter protesters in 2020. Moments after the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles gave their recommendation, Governor Abbott issued the full pardon to former Army Sergeant Daniel Perry. He had been convicted of murder. Governor Abbott had asked the parole board to look into the case. Texas defense attorney Alan Bennett spoke about the rarity of that with KXAN TV in Austin.
And of the ones that make it past the screening, make it past the board, actually get recommended for clemency and make it to the governor's office, less than 5% of those are ever actually granted by the governor.
Perry's been held in state prison on a 25-year sentence since he was convicted last year. Now, an Austin jury convicted Perry of murder in the death of 28-year-old Garrett Foster. He was an Air Force veteran who had been legally carrying an AK-47 while marching in the Black Lives Matter protest. After the pardon was announced, Governor Abbott released a statement saying Texas has one of the strongest stand-your-ground defense laws that cannot be nullified, he said, by a jury or by a progressive district attorney. Foster's family calls the pardon a devastating blow. Republican lawmakers in North Carolina have pushed forward a bill to repeal a pandemic-era law that let people wear masks to protect themselves from COVID-19. Members of the GOP state legislature claimed that demonstrators, including those against the war in Gaza, are using masks as a form of disguise to hide their face, and said protesters who commit crimes will have a harder time getting away with breaking the law. The legislation managed to clear the North Carolina State Senate despite pushback from Senate Democrats. They argue the new law would place the health of immunocompromised people in jeopardy. Republicans counter that someone could get into trouble if they mask due to health concerns and would leave that up to police. The bill must still go through more legislative committees, though, before a final vote could be made. We know now what caused the death of a Massachusetts teenager after he ate a spicy tortilla chip. Bob Brown has the details.
An autopsy report shows a 14-year-old Massachusetts teen died from eating a spicy tortilla chip which contained a large quantity of chili pepper. The medical examiner also determined the teen had a congenital heart defect. Harris Rolova had eaten a spicy chip as part of the so-called one-chip challenge. Pocky, makers of the chip of the same name, is a subsidiary of Hershey. After eating the chip, Harris fell ill at his school in Worcester, and the nurse called his mother, as reported by WBZ-TV Boston. Harris died on September 1st, 2023. His family naturally devastated.
I pray to God, I love parents. We'll go through what I'm going through. I don't want to see anybody's parties. Ernie, I miss my son so much.
There was a warning on the package. However, the chip continues to be popular with teens, despite others who have reportedly gotten sick in California and Minnesota after eating the chip. I'm Bob Brown.
A historic shift in American drug policy. We've got details when America in the Morning returns after these messages. At least 4 people are dead this morning, and nearly 1 million homes and businesses were left in the dark across Texas on Thursday after strong storms with hurricane-force winds blew through the Lone Star State, ripping the roof off a Houston hotel. The most severe weather was northeast of the Houston area, and the combination of flooding from nearly 2 weeks of dangerous weather and the high winds have left the Texas power grid straining. There's a rare high-risk warning for flash flooding in many parts of East Texas into western Louisiana. As much as 2 to 6 inches of rain are forecast to move from Texas to Georgia through tomorrow. President Biden has publicly endorsed the Justice Department's recommendation to loosen restrictions on marijuana, making a historic shift in the nation's drug policy. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports.
This is monumental.
President Biden announcing the Justice Department has begun the formal steps to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug.
It's an important move toward reversing long-standing inequities.
The proposed rule's been sent to the Federal Register, acknowledging there are medical uses for pot and it has less potential for abuse than opioids and other drugs.
Today's announcement builds on the work we've already done to pardon a record number of federal offenses for simple possession of marijuana. And it adds to the action we've taken to lift barriers to housing, employment, small business loans, and so much more.
The proposal does not legalize the recreational use in states that don't allow it. The Drug Enforcement Administration will be taking public comment on the reclassification proposal. I'm Jackie Quinn.
The Justice Department has arrested 3 people in connection with a North Korean identity theft scheme involving thousands of IT workers. Lisa Dwyer reports.
The Justice Department says that the complex stolen identity scheme generates enormous proceeds for the North Korean government, including for its weapons program. The scheme involves thousands of North Korean information technology workers who prosecutors say are dispatched by the North Korean government to live abroad, with those workers relying on the stolen identities of Americans to obtain remote employment at U.S.-based Fortune 500 companies. Those IT jobs then give them access to sensitive corporate data and lucrative paychecks. Officials say the fraud is a way for heavily sanctioned North Korea, which is cut off from the U.S. financial system, to take advantage of a high-tech labor shortage and the proliferation of remote telework. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Automaker Honda says it's going all in when it comes to creating electric vehicles. Correspondent Rita Foley reports.
Honda is doubling down on its commitment to electric vehicles, saying it will invest $65 billion through fiscal 2031 to deliver EV models to nations around the world. You may have heard talk of a slowdown in electric vehicles in some markets, but Honda says the move toward EVs is solid in the long run. But rival Toyota's approach is more varied. It's focusing on hybrids and other models that still have engines. Honda is announcing a deal with IBM to work together on computer chips and software for future vehicles, meeting the upcoming demand for better processing and lower power consumption. Honda's chief executive saying, "We are steadily and surely moving ahead." I'm Rita Foley.
In Europe, an arrest has been made following the assassination attempt against the Prime Minister of Slovakia. Correspondent Karen Shamas reports.
It violates every idea of a democracy. In democracies, we can disagree, we can have different opinions, but violence is absolutely unacceptable.
Slovak authorities have charged a man with attempting to assassinate populist Prime Minister Robert Fico, saying the suspect acted alone. Interior Minister Matúš Sutáš-Estok said that the investigation found that the assassination was clearly a politically motivated act. The minister did not specify what the motivation was, but blamed media outlets and the opposition. His victory led to thousands of people on the streets across Slovakia to protest many policies, including taking control of public media. I'm Karen Chamas.
Apple iMessage users being plagued by the message not sent flag may finally see things moving the way they're supposed to. Here's Chuck Palm with today's tech news.
If you're an iPhone user and your iMessages were not delivered yesterday, you're not alone. People reported the problem across multiple wireless carriers, countries, and even entire continents where messages were not being delivered from Apple to Apple users. That pesky little not delivered flag kept showing up throughout the day on Apple iPhones, and there's no official statement as to exactly what happened or why resending the message sometimes worked. Google has been touting some new features on their spreadsheet program, Google Sheets. Formatting multicolor table options in Microsoft's Excel has been a feature for a long time now, and it's one of the most requested features from Google Sheets. To see if your account has already been upgraded, try selecting a block of data and clicking Format Convert to Table to see the new options. And Bitcoin has turned down slightly after a high point this week, 65,300, and Ethereum is down nearly 3% to 2,940. For more tech news, visit allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Robert Workman has sports.
NBA playoffs, the Timberwolves shook off a 3-game losing streak and annihilated the Nuggets 115-70 to force a decisive Game 7 in their Western Conference semifinal. The defending NBA champions jumped out to a 9-2 lead, but from there it was all Minnesota. They went on a 20-point run to take a double-digit lead that ballooned to 50 in the second half. Anthony Edwards had a game-high 27 points. Minnesota coach Chris Finch.
We always knew it was going to be a long series coming in. It's proven to be the case, To win it, you got to get 4. I didn't say how you got to get them. So should be fun on Sunday.
Game 7 in Denver. NHL, the New York Rangers are into the Eastern Conference Final, riding Chris Kreider's third-period hat trick to a 5-3 win over the Hurricanes in Raleigh to win that series 4-2. Carolina led 3-1 going into the final stanza, but Kreider scored 3 times in a 9-minute span to turn the game around. In Vancouver, JT Miller scored with 33 seconds left in regulation to give the Canucks a 3-2 win over the Oilers and a 3-2 lead in the series as well. At golf's PGA Championship at Valhalla in Louisville, Xander Schauffele has a 3-stroke lead after firing a 9-under par 62, tying the best score ever in a major. If that sounds familiar, he did the same thing last year at the U.S. Open along with Ricky Fowler. Brandon Grace was the first to shoot 62 in a major at the 2017 Open Championship. Baseball Thursday, the Astros completed their 4-game sweep of the A's 8-1. Yankees blanked the Twins 5-0 for their 4th straight. Anthony Volpe led it off with a dinger. Then Clark Schmidt fired 8 innings of 3-hit ball with 8 strikeouts. Rays scored 2 in the 9th to trim the Red Sox 7-5 and take 3 out of 4 at Fenway. Mets held off the Phillies 6-5 in 11 innings. Pete Alonso went deep. Pirates edged the Cubs 5-4, and the Reds drilled the Dodgers last night 7-2. And Kentucky Derby winner Mystic Dan is the favorite for tomorrow's 149th Preakness Stakes at Pimlico in Baltimore. That's Friday Sports.
Are you working hard to get some sleep these days? Well, you're not alone. Exactly how important is that? We explore when America in the Morning returns after this. Sleep is something we all enjoy, especially after a hard day's work. Stephen Kaufman reports that putting off shut-eye to regain time lost during the day might be a form of procrastination.
Do you fail to go to bed at the intended time while no external circumstances prevent you from doing so? Then you're a bedtime procrastinator.
People are so busy and they have so much going on in the day that finally the end of the day arrives and they get their kids to sleep or they get all their work done. And then they think this is me time. And then they know sleep is good for them, but they sometimes have a hard time shutting it down and going to sleep.
Dr. Linnell Schneeberg with Yale Medicine says sleep deprivation can lead to all kinds of issues.
Some of of the most common ones would be anxiety. People don't feel very calm when they haven't slept well, low mood, difficulty concentrating the next day, your productivity can suffer, your ability to sort of hold on to what you're learning, memory issues can crop up.
And long-term sleep deprivation can lead to
weight gain, worse immune function, and even heart disease.
Schneeberg has some advice for how to avoid becoming a bedtime procrastinator.
They could batch some tasks so that their evening is not filled with the same mundane tasks night after night. For instance, they could make a lot of lunches for the week. They could batch cook. They could do all their paperwork on one night.
Another tip, build in personal time during the day. Just anything to make you feel like you've had some time to yourself. I'm Stephen Kaufman.
Heading to the movies this weekend, there's a new family-friendly and friendly film in theaters. Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at If.
Director John Krasinski takes a break from Jack Ryan action and Quiet Place monsters to make the uplifting family film If.
I'm an if. Get it? Imaginary friend?
The story follows a girl who lost her mother and sees her father in the hospital. When staying with her grandmother, she encounters a group of imaginary friends whose children have all grown up. Soon she decides to help them find new children to befriend.
Our kids grew up, so we need new ones. You could save all of us.
Overall, the movie is sweet and has its heart firmly in the right place. It definitely plays off of Krasinski's attitude in his Some Good News YouTube series he did during the pandemic.
I'm John Krasinski, and if it isn't clear yet, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. And now, for some good news.
Still, as charming as some of the elements are, and as great as the supporting cast of imaginary friends are, the script could have been left in the oven a little longer.
Are any of them scary?
Worse. Desperate.
And it lays on the cheese so thick it might have had more of that in it than the upcoming Garfield movie does.
Say when. Never, John. Bury me in cheese.
Playing out like a children's book with a sometimes silly plot, it's fun for the family and great for kids. Just don't think too much about the logic behind it.
Thank you.
You ready for this?
Cute, but sometimes overly sweet. If gets 3 insulin shots out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
America in the Morning for Friday, May 17th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout, and this is Westwood One.